Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central, and here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another episode of Foxborough Central. I am Bob Hickey, your host, and I thank you for taking the time to join with me and my guest as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough the gem of Norfolk County. And as you see, I've got a few toys here today, but don't call them toys because my guest might take offense, and we wouldn't want that to happen. Of course, what you're seeing here is the new generation of drones. And joining me today is my friend Jeremy Walter. Jeremy, so good to see you.
Nice to be here.
You are the owner, purveyor, and chief drone expert down at the Hobby Quarters, which is in Foxfield Plaza. And also part of the Hobby Quarters, there's a sub shop, if we'll call it. It's called Drone UAV Store.
Yes.
And you can find out more about it at droneuavstore.com or, of course, hobbyquarters.com. So for those of us who have been in your store, it's really cool. I went in the other day to introduce myself again. I've known you for a while, so Jeremy's been a big part of our community for a while. And as I go into the store, the first thing my wife says is that our son would have had a blast in here, and I wish I would have taken him in when he was younger. But tell me, how has being the hobby, and I'll say the because there's no other hobby store in Foxborough, how has being the hobby store owner in Foxborough been?
Oh, it's been great. We've been open for about 11 years at Foxfield Plaza. And we've grown tremendously. And
well, the store is packed with stuff, and when I was in there, there were a number of people coming in for parts, and so it's not all just, and I'll use the word toy, you're going to correct me in a minute, but I'll start off with the word toy. A lot of toys in there, but also a lot of repair things, little pieces of the equipment, and it looked as though it was a really well-stocked inventory, if you will. It looked like the Radio Shacks of old, but on the toy side. So,
right. Well, the difference maybe between a toy and a hobby, a lot of the things that you can buy in a hobby store, you could modify or repair and get parts for, unlike a toy that you break, generally throw it out. The toys we have are repairable and modifiable and upgradable, and that's what makes it a hobby.
Now, when you and I were young, I think it was the model cars and, of course, the model trains. And I think we've gone beyond that. As we're looking at the table, this certainly is not my father's race car that I would play with out in the driveway. This is quite the, first of all, I'm not even going to touch it because I understand it is more than the salary I get for doing this show. Is that correct?
I don't know what you get paid. So.
Well, I don't get paid anything, so I guess we could say that one is also. That's okay. I do it for the love of life. And speaking of that, this is a, so the technical name is drone, or are we calling this the right thing to start off with?
Well, let me give you a definition of what a drone is. A drone is a device that can fly autonomously, has GPS, and can do things that a toy can't. This is more of like a manual flight toy. It's not really a drone because it requires you to actually fly it all the time, where this, you do fly it, but it's also assists you in flight using GPS.
Really? So if you plug in where you want it to go, the coordinates that you want it to go, it will get there?
This one has the ability to do what they call waypoints, where you do plot a course and it will take the course.
Now, we're enjoying the background screen, which is usually my lovely logo, but today we're watching pictures of the center of town, and it was taken by one of your drones, correct?
This one right here.
This one right here, and this model, and I don't know if the camera can pick it up, and I'm not going to touch this thing, but there's a camera on it, and it's amazing to me the way technology has created just what we now take for granted. But look at the clarity of the clouds and the steeple, and knowing that this was taken on an itty-bitty camera that, is hovering and subject to vibration and movement. And it's just such a remarkably wonderful picture that, I can't imagine that we would have been having this conversation 20 years ago and talking about it in this context.
Yeah. Actually, talk about how the camera works. You can see when I move move this. You see how the camera's
The camera's staying stable.
So it uses gyros. So this might get blown around in the wind, but the image comes out perfectly smooth and professional looking. And these shoot in ultra high definition 4K. So this is as good as any high-end camcorder that you can buy at Best Buy, per se.
Now I noticed that, and by the way, you'll see this, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode was because we at Cable Access have also acquired a drone, and we acquired it from your shop. But your support, your level of support is fantastic. You've always been there for the cast and crew here at Cable Access. In fact, our drone was working the recent appointment of the Civil War
statue,
the statue atop Memorial Hall, and also the inspection of the flagpole. For those of you who remember, and we'll have a video of that up shortly also, the flagpole, which is a current project here in Foxborough for purchasing a new one. This one's in rather bad shape, and the drone that our Executive Director Mike Weber was able to work in conjunction to really get a good look at that and show the real scope of the issue. So drones, to that extent, not only are fun, but also providing a service. Talk about drones and how they've sort of changed the way we approach aerial shoots.
Well, they have a variety of uses, and one, inspection of a roof or a steeple or a telephone pole or a flagpole, is a great use of drones. You can see if your gutters need cleaning, or if the ice damage, you don't have to climb a ladder to see what kind of ice damage you had from last winter. Police use it for search and rescue, surveillance. Hobbyists use it for photography purposes. It's a great way to take pictures of your family from above now, where it's a new perspective that people have never had before.
Interesting. I harken back just a couple years ago. Cable Access helped the senior class project, well, not a project, but they wanted to do a video, and they did, and the video ended with our executive director in a helicopter taking off. And I'm just thinking now, if we had one of these, that wouldn't have been necessary. So it has changed a lot.
Less expensive.
It would have been a lot less expensive, except that this is probably a model that's out of the reach of most people. How much would this model go for?
This one is about $2,900.
$2,900, okay.
The one, the Foxborough Cable Access, is about a $1,300 drone, and it takes pictures just as good as this one.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you also brought a, now I'm not going to call it a toy, that would be wrong, but it does appear to be significantly smaller and lighter. And so is that something that I might find under the Christmas tree this year?
Oh, absolutely.
And how much does something like that go for?
These go for $85.
Okay. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that a camera on it?
This one with the camera is a little bit more money. With the camera, they're about $180.
But that's amazing. There's still a little camera on that.
Right, and it records to an SD card, and then you could stream it to your YouTube or Facebook or on your computer. Take stills and video in 720 HD.
I'm glad you mentioned Facebook. I should mention now that Jeremy Waltzer, who is the owner of the Hobby Quarters, they are on Facebook. If you want to get a hold of them, you can always friend them on Facebook. Also friend the Drone UAV store. And why would you want to do that? It's because there's an actual club that meets monthly, you say?
Yeah, it's actually Boston UAV Association. It's a users group for drone hobbyists, professionals, photographers, and it's a place that we discuss what's in the news, share our videos that we just taking, talk about what's new and hot and exciting, and we also announce when we meet at the store about once a month. And last month we had a video contest amongst the amateur photographers and video photographers. It's a lot of fun. It's a great place to learn and share information. And we also, the reason for the group is to help people understand the proper and ethical use of these devices, and to keep people from understanding what they should and should not do.
That's a great point. So we're going to touch on that a little bit later. Of course, if you're a drone enthusiast, you know a drone enthusiast, or maybe you want to become a drone enthusiast, you can also email them at rchover@rchover.com. And that's a great way to get involved with the Boston UAV Association. Thank you. So if I am looking to get into learning more and doing drones, what's the first step I should take?
First step to take is come visit us. We can show you a range of models that you can start by learning some skill on something like this. The truth be told is that this is about 10 times harder to fly than this, because this is a manual flight machine that you have to learn skill on how to maintain its flight. I can literally teach people in about 20 to 30 minutes a machine like the one cable access purchase.
Well, I'll tell you, I've not yet touched that, nor will I likely in my lifetime, because I don't want to be responsible. But I know that from my skill of flying the little helicopters when I was a kid, the ones on the string, was definitely not there. So I probably will remain land-based and watching. So this control here also has an iPhone hook to it, and so there's a video screen that shows what this is looking at. Is that how this works?
Yeah, this is what we call FPV, which is first person view. So this is giving the first person view through that camera.
Okay.
So if you wave your hand in front of that, you'll see your hand.
There I am.
And generally, when we fly, we see exactly what the camera's seeing. So therefore, you can get a better shot. Let's say we want to get that flagpole. You can see, rather than guessing where you are, you're actually seeing what the camera's seeing.
Okay, Jeremy, so now let's talk regulations and issues. A lot's been in the news. The FCC is coming out with new regulations that will provide guidelines for how a hobbyist or maybe a just casual user would treat their drone relative to public safety and that sort of thing. We all know that we shouldn't fly it over a football stadium during a game, and we all know that we shouldn't drive it in traffic. So tell us, in 5 minutes or less, what are the issues and what are the controls and what are the good things that come out of this?
Well, the issues are, this is a machine that's capable of flying far and high and into any airspace.
How far high up can this unit go?
Well, the manufacturers are getting a lot smarter. They lock them at 400 feet.
Okay.
They call it geofencing, so it won't fly over 400 feet unless if you get over the altitude, and you can change the setting in the phone as well. It warns you, and you're basically signing like a disclaimer that you're going over the recommended altitude.
So it sounds like the industry is doing some self-control.
Absolutely. And you're also not supposed to fly these out of line of sight. You're never supposed to fly far enough away that you can't see it and control it and get it back. You're also not supposed to fly within 5 miles of an active runway, an airport, and you're not supposed to fly over an open air stadium during an event. So there are restrictions. And there's a great website. It's called knowbeforeyouFly.com. So anyone can go to that website, and it'll tell you the basic rules that I've just discussed, and also where you can and can't fly. And
I imagine there'd be a link to that site, and for folks who get involved again with the Boston UAV Association. That's what it's called?
Yep, Boston UAV Association.
So I can look on Facebook and I can log into that. Also, you have your website, the droneuavstore.com, and that'll take you to, flip over the card, the hobbyquarters.com, which is where all this information about the store is, correct?
That's correct.
Great. So, question then about uses. So you mentioned police departments earlier. I would think that fire departments also could use something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say there's a fire on a house, and instead of sending a man up a ladder, which is dangerous, they can quickly get a view from above where a fire might be breaching a roof or something. they can get an overview before they send somebody into a dangerous situation. So for fire, it's great. For rescue, it's great. You know, if you have a lost dog or child, things like that. There are more advanced machines that have infrared cameras. So
Really?
Let's say a child is in the woods. You're not going to see a child in the woods with a camera like that because you can't see through the leaves. Where if you had an infrared camera, you'd be able to see a heat signature of a lost dog or child.
What a great possibility that is.
Yeah, and that's coming very rapidly. That technology is becoming very affordable,
and are public safety or municipalities embracing this, and are they wanting to do it, or is there still some hesitancy?
A lot of police departments have them already. We actually trained the Attleboro Police with their police chief and a few of their detectives, and they have 3 machines that they currently use. And it's been very successful for them. They've found a lot of uses for it
Have they
as
really?
well.
Fantastic. Again, I'm here with Jeremy Walter, who's the owner, purveyor of the hobby quarters here at Foxfield Plaza. I guess we can't call it Foxfield Plaza for too much longer. I hear a rumor there's some development coming in there. Is there?
Yes, a few months ago, the owner of Foxfield Plaza retired and sold the plaza after many years of trying to sell it.
So what on earth is going to happen with the hobby shop?
Well, if you've been reading the paper, they're going to redevelop.
The Foxborough Reporter, which everybody should be buying on a weekly basis and reading.
Exactly. So if you've read the articles, there's a proposed Hampton Inn Hotel, I believe almost 200 rooms going in, which is the Foxborough Furniture building's going to be torn down.
And this is going to displace you?
Yes, it'll displace part of the Bangkok Cafe, My Hobby Store, the carpet store, and edible arrangements.
So that means you're having a going out of business sale, and we better go buy our drones now or else we'll never be able to do it, right?
Well, I'm not going out of business.
No?
We are pleased to announce
this is called a softball, so here you go.
Yeah. So we're pleased to announce we went under contract with Job Lot, who owns the old Bradley's Plaza, and we're going to be going into the curtain store sometime in the spring, right around April 1st. Fantastic.
So April 1st, on or about in 2016, there will be a new home. And my understanding is you're actually going to have 2 stores in one. You're going to have the hobby quarters, which is your traditional store that with all the cool fire trucks and race cars and everything else in there along with the parts. But then you also have a separate store that's a side-by-side type entity, and that's going to be solely devoted to drones.
Yeah, drone UAV store.
The drone UAV store. So you heard it here first on Foxborough Central, an exclusive of Foxborough Cable Access. The drone UAV store will be opening in Foxfield Plaza in April of 2016. So
actually, Job Lot Plaza.
At the Job Lot. What did I call it?
Foxfield Plaza.
Did I really? Well, why don't we just call it the Hobby Quarter Plaza? So it'll be opening there shortly. And tell us about the drone store. It seems like it's going to be some space, and so what are we going to do in there?
What's very interesting is my business has changed with the people wanting drones, and it's a different kind of customer than the traditional hobby customer. So we have people, these are so easy to fly that every Tom, Sue, and Harry can come in and with a very little bit of training can learn to fly this. And these are flying cameras. So people who are interested in photography and video photography, people who just like taking pictures, they're not your traditional hobbyists. So with the development of this this technology, it's drawn in other people into my store that are not the traditional hobbyists.
Okay.
So we'll have a section for drones and a section for the traditional hobbyists.
Which is really interesting because I think a lot of us still consider drones to be toys. And clearly what you're saying is that they're not toys, they're tools, and they're actually a hobby that's separate from the toy type hobby that I typically think of when I consider
Right.
what
So
I
you
would
got
do going into the store.
photographers.
So you're maturing, actually the drone industry or the drone concept is maturing a bit, and you're creating a separate space for it.
Exactly, and it's a different customer altogether.
So I'm looking at that yellow one. What do you think the chances are that I'll be able to get you to fly that?
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
I need to grab my battery over there.
Oh, well, maybe we'll do
So,
it.
if you wanna,
Maybe somebody else will help us out with that. So while we're waiting for a battery to show up, I'm curious. So with the regulations at the FCC, have they already implemented those regulations, or are they still under review?
they're talking about the registration of drones.
Mm-hmm.
They're very afraid of. If you bring that over to me, I'll.
So with the registration of drones, I would imagine that would require, we'll probably have to call it some sort of a regulatory
You know what I think
entity to become, right? So
Left-
there'll be a new agency, or will it just fall under the FCC?
I think it's over the Department of Transportation, actually. The
Okay.
DOT is going to require that people of a certain level of drone or sophistication of drone, whatever that definition they come up with, no one knows, some type of registration. And no one knows if it's going to be a voluntary registration, just so they know.
Well, we know how the government works. Not much is voluntary.
But also, if you use it for commercial applications, let's say you're a photographer selling the footage, you do need to get a FCC exemption called the 333 exemption, and then you will you have to actually log what you're doing. Your machine gets an N number, just like on a real aircraft. And so if you're using it for commercial application, where you're actually getting paid or you're providing a
Interesting.
service, you are required to get the FCC 333 exemption.
Interesting. Now, as I'm watching this, and people have been enjoying the aerial shots of this very drone on the screen as we've been having the program, I'm curious to know, what type of issues would one run into with taking a picture such as that? And as I answer my own question, if there's people involved, I imagine if people could be identified using the drone, that would open up a whole can of getting permissions and legal issues. And so one has to be careful. One can't just go taking pictures and selling them. There's a lot more to it than just, putting the batteries in the drone and having at it, right?
Exactly. So, like this is purely hobby video photography, enjoying my town of Foxborough, and you can see in the background Gillette Stadium right
There
behind
it
the
is.
steeple.
And there it goes.
And there it
there's the
goes.
fire tower. So I'm curious to know if we have a set of, what's the word I'm looking for? Set idea of what the future holds. Where do you think we're going with drones? Because I still sense that we're in the early stages of drone life. It still seems to be something that regulations aren't written yet. The guidelines are still being developed. Where do you see drones going?
Well, the technology is moving faster than you can imagine. The next technology that's coming out, and it is available, is obstacle avoidance. And that means that a drone like this would be outfitted with some sensors, and let's say I flew too close to that steeple, this would not hit the steeple. It would avoid the steeple.
So even if I'm the goofiest flyer, it'll protect me from myself.
Exactly.
Nice.
And it'll become easier and easier to fly.
So a drone that has GPS and obstacle avoidance and heat sensor for
Infrared
photography, and this high-def camera, which is clearly superior to many land-based cameras. I mean, that's just a gorgeous shot. Seems like the heavens are open for the drones.
Exactly. Another interesting aspect is the whole selfie thing. everyone loves taking selfies with their phones.
Yes, everybody does.
So these machines now have what they call follow me and watch me modes. So the machine that the Foxborough Cable Access,
yes,
that machine actually will follow the signal of their radio. So if he takes his radio and he walks around the circle of Foxborough, the drone will follow him all the way around.
Really?
And film him as he circles.
And what is that, just something you put in your pocket? Or
well, the radio, but they also are coming out with a device called the Wizard, and the Wizard is something that's waterproof, that you tell the drone, I want you to be right there, click, and then you put this in your pocket and you water ski or ski down a mountain.
Wow.
Or ride a bike.
I think I've seen some videos on YouTube of people kayaking and having the drone following
So it's
them.
all about yourself and selfies, and the drones are just another way that people can photograph themselves doing their wonderful activity.
Well, clearly drones are going to be a cool, and I'm not going to say toy because I've now learned, tool of the future. And I'm going to give you the final word, Jeremy, but while we're letting him collect his thoughts, I'm going to once again thank Jeremy Walter from the Hobby Quarters for being here on our program. If you want to learn more about the Hobby Quarters, you can log on to hobbyquarters.com. You can also log on to their droneuavstore.com, and both of those will take you to the site. Or, of course, you can go to the Foxfield Plaza at least until April of 2016 and visit Jeremy and his staff down there at the store, where they have all sorts of cool hobby things such as drones, and their friends on Facebook. You can also become part of that association, the Boston UAV Association. Friend them on Facebook. And of course, as with every good organization, Jeremy has a phone number. It's 508-549-9959. But still, just go into the store, bring your kids. It's a great place to go visit, and you'll be surprised at how cool it is in there. Jeremy, final word.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity, and we're available for anyone that has questions about the technology or they want to learn more. Come and see us.
Fantastic, and I hope you do. And also come and see us here at Foxborough Cable Access. If you'd like to be a volunteer, why not join us? We're at 28 Central Street. Come on in, see Marg Nash at the front desk and ask her how you can become a thriving member of the FCA community. On behalf of all the volunteers of Foxborough Cable Access, including Betty Travers, Deb Storrs, and Mike Stewart behind the cameras, Paul Beck behind the glass, Lauren Bertar, who lets me on the air, and Michael Weber, who tells Lauren Bertar that she has to put me on the air. I'm Bob Hickey, thanking you for joining us. Until next time, Foxborough, have a great one.